Hello, my name is Linh Hương and you're watching VTV News, brought to you live from Hanoi. Let's now get you caught up with the headlines. Today, May 19th, marks the 124th birthday of late President Ho Chi Minh. Foreign invested companies, especially Taiwanese firms, still regard Vietnam as the best investment environment to invest in. The German Conservation and Education Project helped Vietnam repair and restore part of Hue Citadel. And first up, President of Azerbaijan Ilham Aliyev is paying a visit to Vietnam from the 18th to 20th of May at the invitation of President Trương Tấn Sang. The event aims to promote bilateral economic ties. He was welcomed by President Trương Tấn Sang and other Vietnamese leaders in Hanoi today. Establishing diplomatic ties in 1992, Vietnam and Azerbaijan have enjoyed good political relations on the foundation of the traditional friendship built during the period of the Soviet Union. Two-way trade reached $325 million in 2013. Vietnam exports mainly mobile phones, computers, electronics, and seafood, while importing crude oil and petrol from the market. The Vietnam National Oil and Gas Group opened its office in Azerbaijan in 2011 with the aim of enhancing links with local partners. Thousands of people have been flocking to Hanoi in order to pay tribute to late President Ho Chi Minh on the occasion of his 124th birthday. According to the management board, Ho Chi Minh Mausoleum has welcomed nearly 10,000 visitors a day since the beginning of last week, and the figure continues to rise. On Sunday alone, despite a scorching heat reaching almost 40 degrees, the mausoleum received 12,000 visitors, 2,400 of which were foreigners. In other cities and villages across the country, various celebrations are being held to mark this special date for Vietnamese people. In Laos, Cam Ranh province 2 days ago, the Vietnamese embassy and the overseas Vietnamese living there paid tribute to President Ho Chi Minh at the President Ho Chi Minh Memorial Complex. Addressing the ceremony, Vietnamese ambassador to Laos Nguyễn Mạnh Hùng promised to carry out the task assigned by the Vietnamese state and party, especially in further promoting the comprehensive cooperation and friendship between the two countries. He also informed Vietnamese people in Laos about the provocative actions of China in the East Sea. Also at the ceremony, overseas Vietnamese in Laos donated a fund of $4,000 to support to Vietnam's Coast Guard and other forces that are protecting Vietnam's sovereignty in the East Sea. Throughout his life, late State President Ho Chi Minh had many special friends, and John Sontini was one of those. John Sontini, a representative of the French government, signed a preliminary agreement with Ho Chi Minh recognizing the independence of Vietnam. The following report takes a look at the friendship between former opponents John Sontini and Ho Chi Minh.
In a time-worn house in Paris' 14th district, there's a man who holds a store of memories about Vietnam's late President Ho Chi Minh. Philippe Sontini, who owns the house, is the son of Jean Sontini, who was the French plenipotentiary for Indochina.
These two chairs used to be in my father's study. During the time for Fontainebleau Conference in 1946, Ho Chi Minh sat on one of these two chairs. I remember being deeply impressed by his slim stature.
President Ho Chi Minh met Jean Sontini for the first time in October 1945. At the time, Sontini was an intermediary for the Vietnamese-French meeting that led to the preliminary agreement signed on March the 6th in 1946. In the same year, he accompanied Ho Chi Minh, who was by now the leader of an independent nation, to visit France and welcome him into his family home.
Ho Chi Minh was so special that even though I was only a little boy at the time, I can clearly remember his stature, clothes, his small beard, and especially his eyes. I think Ho Chi Minh knew France even better than my father, even though the French had settled into China at the time. When they talked, Ho Chi Minh used to tell my father to call him Ho Chi Minh, not Mr. President.
After the failure of the Fontainebleau Conference in July 1946, the tension between France and Vietnam kept escalating.
Once again, the efforts of my father and President Ho Chi Minh came to nothing. What they wished for didn't come true, as there were too many people stopping them.
In December 1969, Jean Song-Tany arrived in Hanoi as the leader of the only official Western states delegation to bid the last farewell to President Ho Chi Minh. After that, he wrote a book entitled Face Ho Chi Minh. An excerpt from the book said, "In front of me now is a gentle and slim old man, but this is one man who has the power to bring France back to its original small hexagonal shape."
A special flag-raising ceremony took place in Vietnam's Hoàng Sa or Spratly Islands this morning. VietTV reporters were there to capture the scenes. Vietnam's national anthem echoes from the deck of Vietnam Coast Guard ship 8003. 8 nautical miles away stands China's illegal oil rig Haiyang Shiyo 981. A sense of determination fills the air.
I'm deeply touched by the experience of standing here by my fellow compatriots, proudly singing the national anthem in the nation's Hoàng Sa Islands. We embrace our responsibility and our patriotic duty under the guidance of the party and the government to protect the country's sovereignty over its sea and islands. It's an entirely different experience singing the national anthem out here on the waters. It is a special and emotional time, and yet it fuels our determination to fulfill our given duties, to live up to the faith the nation has entrusted in our hands.
Each of the 40 Marine police here has a story. Some leave behind bed-stricken relatives. Others have yet to register a birth certificate for their newborn child. But all hold a common determination to defend their homeland.
To all soldiers aboard VN 8003, it is a time to unite, overcome difficulties, and steadfastly protect our continental shelf. We are determined.
U.S. Congressman Jason Chaffetz issued a statement on Friday stating his concern over the EC situation. He said China's unilateral deployment of a state-owned oil rig in the EC of the Paracel Islands is deeply concerning and that this dispute must be resolved through peaceful negotiation in bilateral and multilateral forums. Jason Chaffetz, a Republican U.S. representative for Utah, came to Vietnam last year. During his visit to Vietnam, he stressed the importance of freedom of navigation in the EC and his hope that all parties involved can cooperate to ensure peace and prosperity for the region. The situation in the EC over recent days has been drawing the attention of American war veterans of Veterans for Peace Chapter 160 in Vietnam. Together with peace-loving people in Vietnam and around the world, they are sending messages to call on China to remove the oil rig Haiyang Shiyo 981 from Vietnamese waters.
This is a regular meeting of members of Veterans for Peace, Chapter 160, in the central city of Da Nang. They were veterans who used to fight in Vietnam about 40 years ago. For the last decade, they have lived in various cities across Vietnam and contribute their efforts to healing the wounds of war. They won't feel upset at the news of China installing the oil rig deep within Vietnam's exclusive economic zone and continental shelf in early May.
I believe that China has a history of removing natural resources in and around the world that rightfully belong to other countries. I think that's one reason. I think they're also trying to demonstrate their military strength as evidenced by them accompanying the oil company and the rig to the location out off the coast here of Da Nang.
I think the Vietnamese government so far has acted carefully and responsibly, and Vietnam must act with caution despite China's provocation, because an increase of tensions and the conflict would be terrible for everyone, including the Chinese people, but certainly for the Vietnamese. So hopefully the Vietnamese government will continue to try to discuss with the Chinese a peaceful resolution to this situation, and the international community, including ASEAN, will also assist in that process.
Experiencing the war themselves, these veterans know how important peace is. They hope that Vietnam will never have to experience conflict again.
The Vietnamese people have struggled long and hard for their own independence and a peaceful way of living, and it's sad to see that threatened now by probably commercial interests looking for natural resources.
I've lived here for a long time. My family is upset. Vietnamese friends are upset. All of the country now is responding and resisting this kind of provocation. We've all known the worst part of war, and we don't want any more here, especially.
China must understand if they want to be part of the international community, they have to respect everybody in the world, including Vietnam. So I'm hoping the people of Vietnam will take a deep breath, look back and realize they have been through so many hard times. They certainly don't want to get into another war, and let the international community do its work to stop China.
These veterans are planning to ask all members of Veterans for Peace to voice their concerns and protect the legal rights of Vietnam, the country they now call home.
Despite affected by the recent disorder, foreign invested firms in Vietnam had resumed production. Our foreign report will show you that FDI enterprises, especially Taiwanese firms, are still considering Vietnam the best location to invest in. This is due to favorable conditions in the country and their long-term bonds with the local workers.
Tai Jarong, one of the owners of KMC chain in Vietnam, has spent more than a decade at the Amata Industrial Park in Dong Nai province. Explaining his decision to build his factory here, Rong mentioned the stable political status, the good investing environment, and the hard-working laborers. He also revealed that his partners and customers often give higher regard to the products made in Vietnam, as they are more sophisticated and have higher quality. This brings in more profit for the firm, which made them stay here for more than 10 years.
Right after the recent incidents, we were protected by the industrial zone security forces and encouraged by the government that helped us resume production very quickly. I still think that Vietnam has a very good environment for foreign investors. We've been here for a long time, so now we have a very skilled workforce.
We are recovering from the damage, and I'm glad that I can return to work again. The other Taiwanese investors share the same thoughts, have the same mindset, and made the same decision in this situation. They rallied their workers, have repaired their damaged properties, and have resumed production to fulfill their contracts on schedule. The director of UE Vietnam said the government's intervention had proved that the country was doing its best to maintain its investment environment.
After the recent events, our bonds with the local workers grew even stronger. We still plan to give them the full payment for the interrupted time. We've been here for 12 years, so we can quickly control the situation and return it to normal.
Almost all of the Taiwanese firms in Dong Nai province are now operational again, and they look to continue to contribute to the nation's economy and offering stable jobs for hundreds, thousands of the local workers.
More to come on VTV News. A high-ranking delegation of the Vietnam People's Army is attending the 8th ASEAN Defense Ministers meeting. And let's take a look at how the German Conservation and Education Project helped Vietnam repair and restore part of Hue Citadel. Welcome back to VTV News, brought to you live from Hanoi. A high-ranking delegation of the Vietnam People's Army, led by Defense Minister General Phùng Quang Thanh, is attending the 8th ASEAN Defense Ministers meeting, or ADMM8, in Myanmar from May 19th to the 21st. ASEAN defense ministers will discuss measures to enhance defense cooperation and maintain security in the region. They will also have meetings with the Chinese defense minister. Attending the ADMM8, Vietnam is to confirm its active, proactive, and responsible participation in cooperative fields within the framework of the meeting, and to continue fighting to protect the national and regional interests on the basis of international law and conventions. The 20th Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, ministers responsible for trade, or the MRT-20, concluded in Qingdao, China on Sunday with a statement support for multilateral trade negotiation processes and a roadmap for the creation of a free trade area. The Vietnamese delegation, led by Minister of Industry and Trade Vũ Huy Hoàng, actively took part in the meeting, as well as other bilateral activities to promote Vietnam's relations with APEC member countries.
The Chinese Commerce Minister said at the closing ceremony of the meeting that ministers had adopted a standalone statement continuing support for the multilateral trading system and developing a pragmatic guide to advance work toward a free trade area in the Asia-Pacific region and an APEC information sharing mechanism on regional trade agreements and free trade agreements. The Vietnamese delegation, led by Minister of Industry and Trade Vũ Huy Hoàng, also suggested measures to promote regional integration through initiatives of APEC members. That include finalizing a roadmap to advance negotiation and signing a free trade agreement among APEC member countries. On the sidelines of the meeting, Minister Vũ Huy Hoàng also had bilateral meetings with leaders of China, the U.S., South Korea, Indonesia, and others to discuss the EC issues. He announced Vietnam's stand in resolving the dispute and asked China to respect Vietnam's sovereignty. Other leaders also raised the concerns over disputes in the EC and expressed the hope that all disputes will be resolved through peaceful measures and with respect to international laws and the DOC.
Fishermen in Lake Bạc, the largest fishing port in Thanh Hóa province, held its Cầu Ngư Festival, or whale worshipping procession that puts to sea a replica whale to represent the sea god as part of a traditional ceremony to welcome a productive and safe fishing season. At the festival this year, fishermen also expressed their discontent at Chinese encroachments on Vietnamese sovereign waters and the effects it will have on their fishing.
From early morning, thousands of fishermen flocked to the Lake Bạc temple to participate in Cầu Ngư Festival. At the traditional festival, fishermen shared their discontent against the installment of an illegal oil rig and China's attempt to drive Vietnamese fishermen away from their traditional fishing grounds.
In previous years, there were cases where China used water cannon on us, but now they have gone too far. The whole world can see it. China has to leave, and they need to leave soon. And for our part, we're not afraid and will continue to work on our fishing ground to contribute to the economy.
Many fishermen said that they had encountered Chinese forces at sea.
We're used to Chinese forces spraying water on us, so we have to be prepared. We stock up extra life jackets and raincoats to protect and keep ourselves warm and dry. During today's Kongo Festival, our fishermen in Hai Thanh Hai Binh Commune strongly oppose China's acts in Vietnamese waters. Vietnam's fishing ground belongs to Vietnamese fishermen. We demand China to leave now.
Tinh Gia District Local Authority and representative from Thanh Hóa Province, agricultural sector, said that fisheries were a key economic sector in the area. The province has also developed investment strategy to help fishermen to continue their fishing activities.
Welcome to this week's edition of Vietnam in Close-Up. As the former imperial capital, Hue has been one of Vietnam's main cultural and historical centers. Among the many beautiful historical sites, Hue Citadel is the most outstanding. In a bid to preserve its beauty, restoration and preservation works have been implemented by domestic and international organizations, and the German Conservation and Education Project has helped Vietnam enormously in the repair and restoration of part of the citadel.
Hue's imperial city was built by the emperors of the Nguyen dynasty and was inspired by both ancient Oriental and local architecture. However, many parts of this structure has been damaged or even destroyed. Only a third of the original buildings survived 3 decades of war in Vietnam. Thus, a number of projects has been carried out by GCREP in the past 10 years to help restore the original architecture. The restoration project on the Ta Vu building on Mandarin's House was the 4th successful project in Hue implemented by GCREP after they work on the Andic Palace, the Duc Mausoleum and the highest celestial temple in Hue Citadel. Works on the project includes treatment for corrosion of the iron girders, filling the gaps in plaster with appropriate materials, and retouching of the paintings to restore the authentic beauty of the interior decoration.
Usually they are very damaged by the climate, some also by the war, and there was no maintenance before. So the temple what we restored has no roof, for example, and of course we make a new roof and everything. So after more than 100 years, the most buildings, they need some conservation and restoration when you want to preserve them for the future.
Today, Ta Vu serves as an ideal historical showroom for the traditional values of Hue heritage, with a permanent exhibition featuring an overview of the life and work of the Nguyen dynasty and their royal court.
The aim of this project, this exhibition, was to provide to the visitors a compact documentation about the life in the imperial city, because we thought this is really missing. I mean, there is nothing to explain and to give some indication.
Prior to the Ta Vu building, Chief Restorer Andrea Toffer worked on the highest celestial temple or Toi Linh Tự in the citadel. And the great support by GCREP experts is greatly appreciated by the Vietnamese colleagues.
German experts have great knowledge and strength in restoring details on solid materials. They have helped us restore the aesthetic beauty of the interior decoration in a few buildings of the citadel. Furthermore, they have helped us train young workers as part of the project. These workers now have extensive knowledge of heritage restoration.
During the project, local trainees in heritage restoration also received skillful guidance from the German experts. They were given certifications at the end of the project as an outcome for the project in the field of heritage conservation through on-the-job training program.
Toi Linh Tự Temple was built in 1936, and after 7 decades, the site was heavily damaged by insects and moles. With the help from GCREP, a team of 6 workers had to work 15,000 hours or 11 months to restore the site to these conditions.
Marked by many porcelain mosaic inlaid ornaments inside and outside, Toi Linh Tự temple restoration work required both skillful expertise and diligent work. But thanks to the help from German experts, the temple has been restored to its previous glory, and knowledge acquired by heritage restoration workers through this project will surely benefit future projects to restore Hue Citadel's architecture in the future.
VTV News will now continue with several online news about Vietnam.
Trung Quốc Coffee Corporation has today officially launched an online coffee hypermarket for the first time in Vietnam at cafe.net.vn. The online coffee hypermarket is the most effective tool channel to supply all products and articles related to coffee and are particularly suited to the trend of shopping of young customers. This is the beginning stage of the business model of the Trung Quốc Coffee Hypermarket, and is gradually being improved and continues to be developed to meet the diverse needs of consumers. According to Forbes, Dong Nguyen, the creator of the famous Flappy Bird mobile phone game, revealed that Flappy Bird will return to the app market this August, complete with multiplayer functionality and changes that will make it less addictive. Nguyen made headlines this February when he abruptly announced he was deleting the #1 mobile game in the world, which according to him was bringing in $50,000 a day to this one-man studio. Hanoi-based Vietnam National Museum of Nature has opened a new exhibition hall on evolution, displaying a wide range of specimens that recorded life on Earth over the past 4 million years. The exhibition covers nearly 300 square meters on the first floor of the museum, believed to be the best of its kind in Vietnam, with a collection of about 40,000 specimens, including 400 of animals, thousands of reptiles, fishes, snails, insects, and flora. Among the objects on display are ocean sunfish, a 18.5-ton whale, a fossilized crocodile skull, and other rare species such as elephants, tigers, and bears. The exhibition is open at 18 Hoàng Quốc Việt Street, Cầu Giấy District in Hanoi.
A 54,000 deadweight ton Northern Genius ship of Nippon Yusen Kaisha carriers of Japan successfully docked at Saigon Premier Container Terminal, or SPCT, through the Soi Rap Channel on Saturday. This is the largest ever ship docked at the terminal. After this ship, the SPCT has signed contract to allow 5 large-sized vessels to dock at the terminal. Using the Soi Rap Channel has reduced a travel distance of 20 kilometers from the sea to the port of Ho Chi Minh City. By using the Soi Rap Channel, the 54,000 deadweight ton vessel has estimated to save cost by at least $500,000 per year. Petro Vietnam Gas and Vietinbank were named in the Forbes magazine's Global 2000, a list of the world's largest and most powerful public limited companies. In a report released on May the 7th, the U.S. business magazine ranked Petro Vietnam Gas, which has $3.1 billion in revenues and $7.5 billion in market value, in the 1,651st position. Vietinbank stands at 1,854 with $2.3 billion in revenues and $2.9 million in market value. This year, the Global 2000 companies hail from 62 countries. In total, they ranked in revenues of $38 trillion and profits of $3 trillion. They had assets worth $161 trillion and a market value of $44 trillion.
And here comes our updated weather forecast. And that's all we have for this VTV News. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye from Hanoi.